Hello everyone, welcome to Living Arts. I'm your host, Jackie Suarez. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we have just a terrific artist. Her name is Toni Quest. She's a writer, painter, sculptor, professor, jewelry designer. We have a real Renaissance woman right here on our set. Toni, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jackie.
How are you?
I'm okay.
We were just laughing, and we have to let everybody know that we were talking about the various forms of technology that have amazed us, and Toni said that she's still very fascinated and confounded by the fax machine. So
Silly.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
So how are you tonight?
I'm okay. I've gone beyond the fax machine. I trust that you trust that I have.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I had some time in your studio last Saturday, and I was thinking to myself, how does a person teach themselves to paint like this? We have behind us the painting called I Am Us, correct?
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about that, and also just how you came to be self-taught.
Okay, well, I Am Us is a painting, it's a self-portrait. Specifically, it's a self-actualized portrait. And what it represents is my collectiveness, my attachment and my connectedness to the collective unconscious of our society. And I really believe that we're all connected on this planet globally. I think that no matter if you're walking down the street and you just make quick eye contact with someone, you've made a connection. And I painted this painting shortly after I'd gone through a real traumatic situation over maybe 2 years or so, and I hadn't painted very much during that time. And when that situation resolved itself, this is how I felt, is I'm connected to the global society, because I know that a lot of it I could not have gotten through had I not felt that I was not alone.
I see. So when exactly did you start to paint? I know that you said that you started, I guess, after an accident.
Yeah, I had a car crash in 1994, and I had multiple injuries, and I suffered from post-concussion syndrome as well as post-traumatic stress syndrome. And in my recovery, because I have to say I was a little bit, I'll say, wackadoodle, okay? I started to paint. My cousin had told me to start painting because she was a painter. I started painting these faces, and I started painting faces of women screaming, because my communication skills were a little, I'll say, askew. And that's what led to other things. Yeah.
Other forms of expression.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you've coined this phrase, or not coined the phrase, but you said self-actualized paintings.
Yes, self-actualizing. I call it self-actualizing because it's not just a self-portrait. It's a portrait that brings you to your highest self, at least your highest self for the moment. And again, it's that that attachment, and that connectedness to the collective, I'll say, unconscious. And I've actually taught this course as well, a course titled the same thing, because I think it's so important to be able to give back. And I know that when I go through a situation, any situation that's somewhat traumatic or difficult or challenging, it does help. I have found that it does help to do a self-portrait, a self-actualized portrait, and that involves being really honest with yourself and going within. And it can be a little scary in there, but ultimately, it's a safe place because it's you.
So where have you taught this?
I've actually taught this to gifted and talented students at BOCES. And it was interesting. They were gifted and talented in everything, not just art. And I remember going to class to teach, and I would say, these students are so talented and so skilled. And I was able to bring out something within themselves to make them go beyond the skills that they were taught in their classroom to turning their work into more of a masterpiece because they were giving of themselves, even if you do it in a landscape. I have taught it there. I did engage in the process with a partner of mine who is also an artist, who is, again, extremely skilled. But what I did was I worked with him on a couple of paintings in which I engaged in the process with him, where we were able to take his very highly representational work and attach it to my own. We painted together, and it became, in essence, an actualized portrait, even though they were not portraits of ourselves.
I see. So now, as I look at all of the various things that you're doing, or that you could be described as, what would you describe yourself as now? Because I have down here, I mean, you host your own talk show. You're a professor of sociology and gerontology at the College of New Rochelle. I mean, you do that.
Yeah.
I said it was adjunct professor.
Yeah, I was doing that for a year after I got out of graduate school. My husband had passed away shortly after. I mean, within months, I decided I should get a master's degree, and I chose adult learning theory, and I actually wrote the thesis on self-actualizing portraiture. I could have made it easy for myself and done public speaking, and then you listen to that small voice within, and it said, "Toni, don't cop out. You know what you're supposed to be doing this on." And I did teach at the College of New Rochelle for a year, and it was very rewarding. My students still contact me, for help on their work. I did work as a writing coach as well there, so I was helping them to refine their writing skills. And it's flattering that they call me. I have to say, it's very flattering that they still call me, even though I no longer teach there, or I'm not teaching there at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I guess when you make a connection with someone, it transcends time and whatever you're currently doing. And something that just comes to mind is just when you connect with like an old friend.
Yes.
Maybe many years have passed,
Yeah.
but you get on the phone with them and it's like, wait a minute, it's like we're teenagers again and we're talking.
Yeah, you just pick up where you left off.
Because you have that kind of connection that you've made, but to have that in a school setting over such a short period of time must be really amazing.
Yeah, the students that I taught at the College of New Rochelle were quite amazing, and some of them I was actually working with them just on helping them refine their writing skills, because writing is so important in college. And just yesterday I got an email from someone from the College of New Rochelle, a student that I had tutored, that people, I found that I became disenchanted with academia because I could see something in a student that it seemed that the people that were higher up could not see. And I was so happy that he connected with me, on LinkedIn, because he just reached out, because I really believe that he has a big future ahead of him. I believe he can do what he set out to do, even though some of my colleagues did not believe he would ever really do anything. They were very flippant about what he was trying to do.
Well, you can't really ever gauge somebody else's potential. As Jimmy Kimmel said when he was shaking Obama's hand,
Yes.
his teachers told him he would never amount to anything. So
And there you go.
there you have it. So tell me about the talk show that you do.
Okay, I do a talk show on internet radio, and I'd say I'm taking a hiatus from it.
Okay.
Because sometimes you have to take a hiatus from organizations that are somewhat administratively dysfunctional. But
do we want to name names?
No.
Okay.
But what I did was I did this talk show. I did it for 4 years. I've interviewed people globally. I interviewed people from Hong Kong, California, Canada, South America, and I interviewed people similar to what you do, but a little differently, because I went very, very deep. And I always found, and they always told me after the interview, it's like, I didn't think you were going to go there. It's not like I'm asking someone, well, yeah, I heard about that guy you're with, and I talked to his wife, and da-da-da-da-da. It's not like that. But I would see beneath the surface, and I just had this way of reading between the lines of people. And they came out of the interview feeling that they had a really good time. And the station owner, would occasionally throw me somebody to interview, and I would not always say yes to it. But I found, as you've probably found, it's not very difficult to find someone to be on your show. I interviewed people locally, but I interviewed a lot of people that weren't local, and it was interesting because they always felt they would have to contact me and thank me profusely when all they were doing is talking about what they did. And they might think that this is what I do, but when I would you do a little background check and you realize this isn't really what they do. It's really something else. Right. And so the interviews were really interesting, and they would end up talking about, what they're doing next,
So what would you describe it as, the format?
The format that I was doing on the radio? It was more like just a discussion, because I found that people would email me and they would say, wow, I tuned into your show late and I felt like I was intruding on a private conversation, because it really feels that way. If people have listened to the archives of my show, they'll say there's a point where it feels like you're listening in on a private conversation. I'm
going to have to, I didn't get the chance. I thought you were still airing it, so I thought I would catch a more recent interview, but I'll have to take a look at that.
It's very much available. You can go to my website. It's very much available. Or Google me, and you'll find, on the internet,
a ton of things about Miss Quest.
You'll find a ton.
TQ.
Did you Google me?
Yes, I did. I call it research instead of a background check.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like a background check. It's you did what?
I stopped short of checking for any of your arrests.
Yeah, well, haven't been arrested yet.
Tell me about this painting that we have over here. It's Miles Davis. I actually saw this prior to its completion.
Yes, you did.
And I'm just think you did a wonderful job with it.
Thank you.
Give our audience a little background on this.
This was something I painted, I'd say plein air painting, during the jazz festival in Peekskill last summer. And I just set up the easel, I took the canvas out and, worked on this painting of Miles. And Miles is one of those jazz figures. We discussed our feelings about Miles. Right. I almost felt unworthy, although I've done other jazz portraits, prior to this, which I look at this and look at those. Those are pretty good, but this, I think I show that I've matured. Even though it's not highly representational, I try to capture what went on inside the man. When I do a portrait of anyone, even my self-portraits, but anybody, if I did a portrait of you, I want to understand who you are on the inside. I work with another artist by the name of Mark Yarns, who's like, I know him really well, okay, but I am still awestruck by Mark Yarns' work. But what I see is that it's so technical that, you wonder, what is it that's inside the man that gives him the ability to do this? Where when I paint something, I don't really go for complete representationalism. I go for finding what's going on deep inside. Miles Davis was a dark, dark figure. He was a dark, dark artist. He was known to give it a show, do a show with his back to the audience the entire time, and just get into his music, and he doesn't care that you're there, and his music, I think, reflects it. So in this piece, I tried to show the darkness. He was just in it. I would venture to guess that he was not a very happy person, and that he had very few happy moments.
Well, I got that impression as well. I've been a big fan of his for many years. And there's a melancholy or a deep sadness that you can it just permeates through the music.
Yeah, very much so.
So I kind of felt this painting when I saw it, and I'm really glad that you brought it to the studio so our audience could see it as well.
Thank you for having me and it and it and him.
No, I've been really looking forward to this, and I think this is a nice segue into, I just want to know, I know that you're working with Chiclay. G-Clays. And it's the scarf that you have a print, let's say, of this painting on the scarf. Why don't you show our audience that and tell them a little bit about that?
This is actually a G-Clay of this painting. A G-Clay specifically is a digital archival print. And I was just explaining to Jackie that G-Clay is to digital archival print as Kleenex is to facial tissue. It's a brand name. And it's a file that's produced, and it's produced exactly as this is as this looks, but it's a file, it's a digital file that you can actually print from.
Wow. Because that looks so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it looks just like it.
Yes.
And I can make an actual print on canvas like this, and it will look exact. And you have to be aware of people will call things giclées, and they are not.
Okay, 'cause that's actually the first time that I've actually, I've seen scarves kind of that were matching something else, but I didn't understand what the process was or
Yeah.
the terminology for it. You've also had the honor of using one of your paintings on a collection of poetry.
Yes, yes.
Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about that and show them the giclée for that as well?
Well, I was very, very honored to be asked to be part of this collection of poetry. Initially, the publisher had seen the painting, and she wanted the painting on the cover, which she put the painting on the cover. Okay.
It's called The View from the Middle of the Road.
Volume
2.
2. Okay. And the and I am U.S. in Us. Okay. Now, this is a collection of poems by African American poets throughout the United States. And when she saw my painting, she said, that's perfect for the cover. But then she found out that I was like this closet case poet. And she says, but you have to show me. I'm like, I don't know. You know, she says, come on, TQ, show us your poetry. So she went through my poetry. She picked out the safest ones, because some of them were like very, I would say, not for nursery, not for the nursery,
No,
not for bedtime reading.
No, not PG.
Yeah, not PG. And
Or PC.
PC, right. And it isn't even so much that there was cursing in it. It was more that they were just so dark. You know, it's
Yeah, not light reading.
not light reading. But she picked the ones that she felt were most appropriate. So the painting is sold, and it's owned by a woman down in South Carolina, in Beaufort, South Carolina.
That is seriously nice.
And this is called U.S. in Us. And as you see, it's an African face morphed into the American flag. And again, it's not, and the flag is upside down. Now, this is not anti-patriotic, and anybody that really knows, especially the military among us that are watching, they know what it means when the flag is flown upside down. It's a sign of distress.
Okay.
That's all it means.
Okay.
And so it has the face morphed in there. I mean, I had struggled with whether I was going to put a black face or a white face or a red face. I almost put like an American Indian in there, but I decided to do this particular because I was inspired by a photograph of someone that I saw. And so she decided to use my work in the front and my poetry's in the back, so that's why I call it my book. But there are it's mine. No, there are actually 4 or 5 poets in here, and I have to say they're all fabulous poets. You know, my stuff tends to be light, short, to the point, but it's enjoyable reading, and people have told me they just enjoy reading the book. You know, it's a nice gift.
That's fabulous. I mean, just I'm really amazed. I'm really amazed that you have your finger on all these different pots, so to speak.
Pies.
Right, I got to get my little sayings, my metaphors right
The
here.
pot burns.
That would be me.
Yeah.
So also, just to let our audience know, you were a part of James Brown's funeral. You had a portrait of him as well that was included, and you went down to Savannah or you went down to Georgia to be a part of that.
Well, close. That's pretty close. What happened is that I was asked to participate before James Brown died.
Oh, okay.
Okay, in his 50th anniversary celebration in show business. And they had asked people to draw something or do something artistic, which would be their interpretation of soul. It was called the Visual Soul Project. And so I was like thrilled and honored. I went down there. I had an agent at the time on tour, and I had never been to the South except the Caribbean. You know?
Okay, that's not exactly the South.
I know, not exactly. Not exactly. But I had never been to the South, if you can imagine. I went down there, and it is a different world. And there were all these amazing artists, and myself as well. And I had 2 paintings that I was showing of James Brown, and they were being sort of toured around in that area a little bit, Augusta, and then they ended up in a gallery in Beaufort,
Okay.
South Carolina. And my stuff has been referred to as somewhat cosmopolitan. It's not folk art. And so this gallery wanted these pieces, but I'm thinking, well, they don't really go. So 3 days before he died, okay, they shipped them back to me. They said, here, we don't know if we're going to buy them, and we don't know that we're not going to buy them, but we're going to let you hold on to them because galleries think of their space as real estate. And I'm taking up real estate when you have like 2 pieces this size, and they're shipping them back. And literally 3 days later, which was
I bet they hated doing that.
Christmas Day, he died. And I think, boy, I guess it's like maybe James Brown is saying, hey, they shouldn't have done that to you. They should have done this or whatever,
So what became of his portraits?
They're hanging in the window of the Prudential Rivertown Real Estate office right now.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hanging there. You'll see them.
That is awesome.
JB Hits the High Note and James Brown and Soul.
Awesome.
They're there.
So as you move, I guess, what would be the next step? Actually, no. Before I ask you that, where did you get this screaming woman from? Is that from?
The screaming woman comes from the car accident.
Okay.
And I was literally screaming in pain, but since I don't raise my voice, I was just like this inner horrible feeling.
Right.
And I'll literally or figuratively, someone handed me a paintbrush, and I started to scream with the paintbrush.
Right. And, I probably should have explained that a little better. Toni's Gallery is Screaming Woman.
The Screaming Woman Gallery, yes.
The Screaming Woman Gallery. So what is next for you? As I look at this table and I see all this beautiful jewelry.
Thank you.
You are a jewelry designer. Now tell us a little bit about this. How involved in the process are you just designing it, or are you actually putting it together yourself?
I'm putting it together as well. And this really is something that I never dreamed I'd be doing. I had a different agent had said to me, TQ, come on, make some jewelry. And I'm like, I'm not a crafter. I'm not really that good with those tools. I'm not good at it. And he's like, please, So finally I said, all right. I didn't even know what to buy. He didn't tell me what to buy because he's not either. I just bought a couple of things from Michael's, arts and crafts, and a few beads, and I started tooling around, and it was funny. I wish someone could have recorded it because I'm dropping things. My hands were so clumsy, and then all of a sudden something just clicked, and all of a sudden I'm cranking out earrings. And then it evolved into using better materials. I would wear them. People would literally buy them off of my face.
Wow.
When I went to work, they would say, oh, I like that. And I'd say, okay, well, and I'd sell
You can
them.
have them for the low price of...
We dare not say.
Right, exactly.
Yes, we dare we say. But no, and sometimes I would just give them and say, here, you can have them. And then I started working with Better Materials, and then I got a grant to work with Better Materials and to do this. And it's interesting how people see. Can I show one?
Absolutely. Feel free to lift up anything. And
This one always intrigues me because people look at this and they say, wow, I love this. And they look at it and it's so beautiful. This is pyrite, pure Keshi pearls, pure copper, right? And they're looking at this and there's a little hematite in there and they're looking at it and then they get really close and they realize that they're skulls. They're individual skulls, and what can I say?
Wow. I was taken aback when I first saw that. I know you'd mentioned that perhaps that would look good around my neck.
You're a little goth, you're a big goth.
Right. I don't know. I mean,
You have your goth
I'm in
moments.
desperate need of style. Put it that way. I don't know exactly what type of style I am, but one of these days maybe I'll get one.
And then I started working with these like citrine and things. I love the citrine. The citrine makes me want a glass of lemonade, and it's pure citrine.
It looks very, like vacationish. Like you're in the Caribbean, sipping something.
It looks really nice against. It feels really good. Oh my goodness.
So how do you go about purchasing these? Like where do you get this from?
You can actually purchase them on my website, screamingwoman.com. I'm allowed to say that.
Absolutely.
And you can give me a call or you can email me from that website.
Okay.
I also have a Facebook page, Facebook, Toni Toni.quest
Okay.
at facebook.com. I also have a Twitter account.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, TQ Talker. TQ Talker. Follow me on Twitter, friend me on Facebook, and like me on Facebook, and I will do the same. I will reciprocate. I'm very good at that. And I love getting email from people. You know, I love that, and just commentary on my work. You know, and I do appreciate it. And I even though I giggle all the time, not all, I giggle a lot. I am very.
That is so good for you.
It is good for me. It's good for you
It is.
too.
I know, and I love doing it. I love doing it. So we're two
Yeah.
little giggling fools here, which
Yeah,
is
we-
nice.
And I'm very humble. I'm very humble, and anybody that knows me, I cry at the drop of a hat. Tell me a sad story, and the tears will flow. Tell me a happy story, and the tears will flow.
Well, you know, I have to just thank you very much for coming to the studio.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So interesting. You know, we've run out of time. I wish I had more time to talk to you about where you see yourself going in the future. And I know you have some projects probably that you're working on.
I am.
But, you know, you're going to have to keep in touch with us. And we'll have you back next time you have an opening or something going on at your studio.
Yes.
To the Living Arts audience, thank you as always for tuning in. We just had a great time talking to Toni, and I loved hearing her story. I would like you guys to visit us over here on Living Arts in Westchester, and it's www.livingartsinwestchester.com. And just like Toni, you could also join us on Facebook and like us and see previous episodes on our YouTube channel, which is Living Arts in Westchester. It's always a pleasure to bring you entertainment like this. I hope you enjoyed it. Toni, again, thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you soon. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.
Peace out.
Peace in the Middle East.